Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for being here. We're excited to get started. We are going to allow for a few other attendees to filter in. But before I get started, I see we've got quite a few people. Okay. On behalf of Hatch, I would like to welcome all of you to our discussion today. Before we get started, I do want to cover some housekeeping items. In terms of questions today, we welcome any and all of your questions. We are hopeful that at the end of this webinar, we will have a very solid question and answer session. If I could ask that throughout the webinar, you add any of your questions to the Q&A box, and then at the end, we will cover those questions read aloud. And then one item on attendance certificates. You should expect to receive those within 24 to 48 hours after our webinar today. All right, with that, my name is Nicole Neschheim. I cover partnerships for our organization. We're very proud of our 40-year tenure in the early childhood space. And during this tenure, we have established some very fantastic partnerships with our users. The Georgia DECAL program is one of those partnerships that we will be sharing today. Joining me from Hatch today is Naomi Polinsky, who is our Director of Research at Hatch. She holds a PhD in cognitive psychology from Northwestern University. And Naomi is passionate about applying best practices from cognitive and learning sciences into the design of educational technology to support all children and their caregivers' learning and engagement. Also with us today from Hatch is Jennifer Tubb. She is one of our seasoned customer success managers here at Hatch. She leverages her extensive background as a former early childhood educator in Southwest Florida. And with a career spanning over a decade, she's excelled in roles focused on curriculum, assessment, and educational technology, bringing invaluable insights and expertise to support educators and learners alike. As I mentioned, for over 40 years, Hatch has transformed the lives of young children with innovative solutions, progress monitoring tools, and classroom materials, seeking to prepare them with the essential skills to succeed in school and beyond. At Hatch, we pride ourselves on delivering playful learning for children and actionable data for educators. We hold great expertise in understanding early childhood educators' needs, as well as the issues they need support in addressing in their classrooms. We have strong relationships with Head Start programs and school districts nationwide, and we take great pride in knowing that we've facilitated accelerated growth for hundreds of thousands of children nationwide throughout our tenure. Today's webinar will focus on a partnership with the Georgia DECAL team and their tremendous success with accelerating kindergarten readiness in just 5 weeks' time through the implementation of Ignite by Hatch, our digital learning app that facilitates the purposeful practice of standards-aligned skills. Joining us today are our very special guests from Georgia DECAL. Monique Cook, who has had the privilege of being a part of Early Learning Scholars since 2016. She has worked in a variety of settings for over 25 years in the field of education. She earned her master's degree in early childhood education from Ashford University College in 2017, and she takes great joy in making a positive impact on children's growth with an amazing team. Miss Mira was born in Bulgaria, but moved to the United States with her family 24 years ago. She's been a teacher her entire life with a background in literature and language arts. Her pre-K journey began 18 years ago, and she's been teaching at Young Years Early Learning Scholars for the last 13 years, and for most of them in the summer transition program as well. And Megan McNeil. Megan is the Director for Pre-K Instruction and Regional Operations for the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning. This agency runs the lottery-funded pre-K program, which provides a full-day instructional program to age-eligible children during the school year. She has worked for the pre-K program for 22 years and spent many of those years running the summer transition program. Thank you all for joining us for this valuable discussion. Today, we will be sharing the success of the summer learning program over its tenure, learning about the overall structure of the program and the implementation steps that help to make it so successful. And we will also take a deep dive into the data from the program as we explore the tremendous impact made to children's learning in just 5 weeks' time over the summer. With that, Megan, could you please provide some context about the Department of Early Care and Learning program for our audience? Maybe tell us a little bit about the students and the teachers and the community you serve.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for having me today. I'm very excited to be here and talk about this wonderful partnership that we have with Hatch. So right from the start is our fun name, but the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning is our actual state department name. We do a variety of things at our department, but the biggest thing that we do is we run the Georgia's pre-K program in our state, which is a lottery-funded pre-K program that is statewide. We're in every county in Georgia, which is 159 counties. It's a huge state. Some of those counties are teeny tiny, and some of them are huge. We have a really nice public-private partnership. So about 50% of our classrooms are in public schools, and about 50% of them are in private childcare centers. And then we also at DECAL do license all the childcare centers in Georgia. We run the nutrition program, so the federally funded nutrition program where we serve meals to students in our programs. We have a quality rated program, which looks at quality in programs, and we have a rating system in Georgia that many of our schools participate in. And then we do a variety of other things, but our biggest things, like I said, are our pre-K program and probably our licensing division, which license those schools. Then we also started about 14 years ago a summer transition program, and really we were given some money and asked to develop a program, and so we did, and we started looking at the children who were on a waiting list during the school year that never did get into our Georgia's pre-K program during the school year, and we focused our efforts around those students and give them an opportunity to come to school during the summer so that when they went to kindergarten, they weren't as behind as they might have been had they not gotten anything. And so that's kind of where the program started. We ran that program for just a couple of years, and it was small. It was maybe 30 or 40 classrooms back then. And then we added in a second program, which is focused on children coming into pre-K in the school year, and that's called Rising Pre-K. Our efforts with Hatch have only been around Rising Kindergarten and really focus on those kids going to kindergarten. But at some point, we hope to expand to both of our programs. We've expanded a lot over the years, and we're up to 325 classrooms with Rising Kindergarten, and that's been wonderful. It's taken a long time to get there, and we're not even close to being as big as we are for pre-K, but we do cover 62 counties in Georgia, which again is huge. We're in very rural parts of the state and very urban parts of the state. And it's just been a wonderful partnership developed between us and the folks at Hatch to make this a successful program in our summer school.
Could you tell us a little bit about why Ignite appealed to you all for the summer transition program?
Yes.
Where that idea got started?
So really what happened was we had been running the summer school program. And when you think about it, we initially started, it was a 6-week program. It's only most recently gone to 5 weeks. And I can talk about that later, but the 6-week program, we had been doing that. We had not been doing any formal assessment in that program for about 10 years. So we were running the program. We had teachers utilizing our Georgia Early Learning and Development Standards to plan instruction in the classroom. So we were running it like a pre-K classrooms run during the school year, but we really didn't have anything as far as assessment went. The program that we use during the school year is a very intensive assessment program. It's very time consuming. And one of the things about summer is it is fast. Our teachers will be able to attest to that, but you end the school year, you start summer, and it's go, 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 go for 6 weeks, and then it's over. And so our school year assessment program really didn't lend itself to being utilized in the summer, but we did know that there was a need for us to have some sort of assessment tool that we were using with our kids. I mean, obviously part of why we were doing this is to be able to show that children can make growth and progress in 6 weeks. And so we really felt it was important to try to find a tool that could meet the needs of our program as well as meet the needs of our teachers in our programs. We didn't want to find something that was going to overwhelm them. We wanted to find something that was going to be an easy complement to summer, something that they could just use that would be user friendly and something that wouldn't take a lot of time. And so we had heard of Hatch. We hadn't really utilized it at all, but we did meet up with someone who worked at Hatch at the time. And this was probably summer of 20, maybe even before the pandemic, quite honestly, and kind of learned about the program, and we were going to try to implement it. And then of course, everything changed and we didn't have a very robust summer school program in summer of 2020. And so we kind of picked that back up in summer 2021. And that's really when we got started, and we're able to find a tool that we felt like was going to be a good match for our program, that again was going to be easy for teachers to use, easy for kids to use, and be able to give teachers very quick data that they could utilize to plan instruction in their classroom.
Okay, great. So also curious to know, I know getting started, before we get into implementation, I'd love to hear about the partnership between you and Jennifer, just in terms of helping get objectives going, and talk a little bit about that relationship, because so much of what we do, we understand it's a partnership with educators, and that's really what I think you guys have done beautifully, and I'd love for you to share that with our audience.
Well, she's wonderful. And I don't think we would be where we are today if it wasn't for Jennifer. And I'm being completely honest. I can do as much as I can do, but I don't know Hatch and Ignite. And she really was just a wonderful partner. We just matched perfectly. We had similar sense of humors. Like, you have to have some fun while you're doing this or it would be terrible. So we found a way to make it work. But really that partnership has made it successful. That first summer was crazy. We kind of decided we were going to implement it, and we had a lot of things we had to do really quickly. Training for teachers, training for me. I had no idea about the system. Getting everything set up and able to run and make it successful, getting all the tablets shipped out to schools, which was another, feat in itself. And then just getting everything running, and really in that first summer, Jennifer was doing all the monitoring of it. I mean, I was doing a little bit, but I still had my whole job that I was doing. And so again, without the partnership and her support and her knowledge and expertise, like, it never would have, it might have tanked. And then we may have said, you know what, we're not going to do this again. I'm being honest. And so the fact that it ran so smoothly, thanks to her and your team. I mean, of course it's Jennifer, but I'm sure there's a lot of other people who are behind the scenes. But I just don't know that we would have continued that partnership had it not been as successful that first year. And we were small that first year. We had maybe 100 classrooms. So that's small, but that was a small program. And then, to now think about the fact that we're at 325 and we can't wait to do it again, says a lot about what y'all do.
Well, thank you. That's such a compliment to hear. Jen, do you have anything you'd like to add just about objectives, or what was key before we get into implementation, and anything of that nature, what your goals were?
No, I agree with what Megan said, outside of me being fabulous, because she is equally fabulous. It really makes, the long hours leading up to starting an implementation, knowing it's going to be a quick, just bang 6 weeks, and now even shorter 5 weeks, of making sure it's all set up, ready to go, to be successful for the children, for the teachers. So they want to keep implementing. That's sort of getting all of those key logistical components taken care of and out of the way, make the rest of the summer much easier. Megan and I meet frequently, already starting January, we're already planning for this summer. And once we get closer, we'll start meeting more often throughout the implementation. We're meeting weekly. So there is a lot of setup, but it makes it a lot easier when the admin and sort of the internal Hatch team, when we can work so well together. And it is sort of our shipping sort of I can't even think of the name of the department, but sort of like the logistics component of getting the devices out and troubleshooting that. Our tech support team has given countless hours for just like little glitches here and there of new devices and teachers being unaware of them, of our research department, of our PD department, everyone at Hatch coming together to make sure that this is successful. Like it really is, like we're going into the 4th year. And like Megan said, we have plans, and I'm saying we, because I'm part of this DECAL team, that in the coming years, we'll also have the rising pre-K children. So we'll have 4-year-olds, we'll have 3-year-olds that are starting to implement the program. All teachers will be trained, all admins at each building will be trained. So we've got a lot of really great plans, but it really starts from like day one, making sure that we all have the same end goal and are working towards that.
I love to hear that. And you can hear it in exactly how you describe it. You're a part of the team. It's a learning team together. I love it. It's beautiful. So for our audience members who are curious on just exactly how to get started with implementing Ignite in a summer program, could you both and Miss Mira and Miss Monique share how do we get started? What's our implementation step number 1, and kind of cover those nuts and bolts for us there?
Yes. You mean the very beginning of the program, or just how we start every summer?
The very beginning. If I was coming to you as an administrator saying, hey, listen, I found some extra dollars and I've got a summer learning program and I want the success that you all have, what's my first step?
Buying the software and the...
Hello. Hello.
Hey there.
We can hear you, Miss Monique. I think
Yeah,
Miss Mira froze up.
I think Mira kind of froze there.
Do you
but
want
I'll
to talk
just-
about what you think makes it successful?
Mira,
Yeah.
I think we lost you for a second.
We did.
the-
Do you want to repeat what you said?
Yeah, I was going to say first you need to buy the software and the tablets. And you have to, of course, train your teachers.
Sure. And what?
And then the work...
So what all did you do internally, just in terms of prepping for getting started? You talk a little bit about training.
Yeah, first we enter the kids in the classes, and
Yeah.
after that, to be honest with you, the very first time I saw the tablets and I heard about Hatch, I misunderstood, and I told that not 30 minutes per week, but I told that we have to do 30 minutes every day with the children. And of course, I was very anxious about that. And I was like, how I'm going to find time? Of course, this is not the case. They don't need that much screen time. But yeah, once you get your class ready, then you need to figure out what is the best best time of the day to put them on Hatch. And for every child is different. Some kids are okay during the, let's say, free choice playtime. They're not interested in anything particular. They can go on Hatch. Some of them never take a nap. They can go during nap time. It is another way of using that time for, instructions. And we mentioned some issues with some of the children, like getting distracted very easily. For them, it's better to get more quiet time, of course. And things like this. It's really just technicality of how it works for this particular group of children.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, kind of like what Ms. Mira said, was just like getting, getting the data, staying within the limits, that we have to work with, and staying with it, encouraging the children, encouraging the parents, and just working through the hiccups in the beginning, because we didn't know anything about Hatch, but once we learned, and just staying really positive about it, and we were excited, because as long as we were excited and we were encouraged, the kids were encouraged, and we were encouraging parents along the way. So we just kept going with it. So it's become one of the best tools that we have within the classroom. So
For sure. That energy is infectious.
yes.
Megan, what was key for you in working with Jennifer in the start, just to get off the ground running in terms of objectives for playtime to hit the 30 minutes per week with such a condensed time frame?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that Miss Monique and Miss Mira spoke to that. Like it was kind of thrown at everybody. So I mean, we kind of knew what the expectations were at our level, but getting that information passed down to the teachers, I don't necessarily have a direct line to the teacher. So the information I provide goes to their direct supervisor, who then gives them the information, and they were receiving it at training, but it was all new. So I think a lot of times it was overwhelming, and some teachers don't get registered for training. So, we knew that like playtime was obviously important. We need to get these kids playing on tablets to be able to see outcomes, for the teachers to be able to get the data. But that was a struggle. And I think it's still a struggle. We are so much better than where we were that first summer.
Mm-hmm.
But that was, I mean, for me as a program director, it was just new to me. And there's also, everybody, the teachers both spoke about how busy they are. I mean, that class is like jam-packed. Our pre-K classrooms are go, 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 go. They get nap time, but other than that, they're constantly doing something.
Right.
So also for them to be able to find a way to manage the tablets and the time the kids are, and trying to make sure that all kids are getting an opportunity on there. Because I know we have some tablet hogs who would like take
Yes.
the tablets from other kids. So we even had some schools that had to do, like set times, like you get a sign in and sign out, you get 10 minutes, here's a timer. Like, so just trying to develop and work through all those things in the beginning. So while we knew what the goal was and what our objectives were, I feel like we really had to just go through it that first summer and then kind of learn from our experiences, as well as the teachers. And I'm fortunate that I have a lot of teachers who've been with us, who've done summer for multiple years and now are like pros at it, and they want to use it during the school year. Like they're great, but we also have that turnover piece, but it's not as much as it was. So that initial year or two was hard, just to kind of get everybody like used to something new, figuring it out, and then figuring out how to use it. And we have our pre-K specialists who also go in and visit these schools in the summer and introducing them to it, because it was a new tool for them. So it's just like all these moving parts, where I feel like now we're kind of like all on the same page, and we've seen it. We've seen an increase in the time that the kids are on tablets, not in a bad way, but where we want them to be. We've seen the teachers using the data better. We see, the data shows that you all have collected. Our directors are understanding it more. So it's like almost like this layered approach that you have to take. Like first year, just kind of put it out there, try to get people using them, get them to figure it out. And then like that next year, and that's kind of what we've done. We've kind of built on every year, every other year. So like now our next role is like, we have to train our direct supervisors, because we want them to be monitoring what's going on in the classrooms, but they're not really familiar with the tool. So, that's kind of our next step now, is like, teachers are really good now. Tablets are good, working for the most part. Everyone's Wi-Fi issues have kind of been resolved. And now our pre-K specialists have been trained, and they understand it. They know how to support the teachers. And so I guess the next level is kind of like moving up that administrative chain. But at some point, like everybody needs to, be on the same page and understand why we're using it. And it starts with our teachers. They need to have that buy-in, and they both do, right? They're both excited about it. They understand it. They see the value in it. But if we don't have that, it's not going to be successful. I can say something all day long at my level, but if the teachers don't buy in, it's not gonna fly. So, and the teacher, you guys might want to add something about that. I don't know.
No, you are 100% right, Megan. I mean, I agree. In the beginning, it was so frustrating because we were, the internet was dropping. I mean, we were trained, but even at our level, it was still like glitches, there were hiccups, and we were like, what are we doing? So as long as we just kept trucking along and we believed in it and we saw the success, we stuck with it, and the kids were growing and they were learning. We just stuck with it, kept going, and it was like, okay, we saw the success at the end. The kids were enjoying it. We were enjoying it. So it was like, high five. We're going to make this work. So,
That's great. Well, and so building on that, because I think what everyone, the unspoken question here is going to be, all right, this is summer learning, right? So what we're not talking about is engagement levels, right? So from the first year of implementation to now going into the fourth year, how has your strategy changed to engage children and get them excited about Ignite or even coming to a summer learning program?
Ms. Mira or Ms. Monique, do you want to talk about engagement with children?
Is it with just with Hatch or just
Yeah, with Hatch.
ST?
Mhm.
Oh, just with Hatch?
Yeah.
Well, for the ones for kids that's coming on, they don't they don't know anything about Hatch. So for the they wouldn't know until they kind of enter into it, you know. So once they cross that bridge, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Once they-
but as the teacher, because I know you and Ms. Mira have implemented several summers now, how
Mhm.
has your like strategy or approach changed to like the first group of children that you introduced Ignite to now the children? Like, what's your strategy going into this summer? How will you get children, engaged and ready to play? Or has it changed at all? How you like approach it and introduce it to the children?
Oh, okay, Mira.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I really don't need a lot to engage the children with Hatch. My challenge was to get the parents excited about it, because kids, they love it, most of them anyway. Some of them will figure out that it's hard work, is not just play, so they may, lose that enthusiasm. But I haven't had any problems, getting them excited about it. With the parents, I had to come up with something that, instead of explaining to every parent what the Hatch is about, I wrote a paper. And this gives our parents also a chance to have somebody translate it for them, because majority of our kids' first language is not English. And despite of everything, only a few parents will actually get excited about it and keep up with it. In the years around the pandemic, they were more in kind of going with it, maybe because there was so much online learning happening and at home learning happening. But right now, for me, it's really hard to have them actually do their, to do Hatch at home with their children. So I kind of gave up on that. But the kids themselves, they don't need much, because they're already excited about it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And we
Because-
also have a transition coach position in the summer, which is kind of nice. We don't have that position during the school year, but we fund a part-time, basically family support person who's there to kind of be that bridge between the families and the school, and offer workshops and training opportunities and engagement activities. And we've given them, they haven't been through the training, which that's another layer that we need to look at, but we give them the tools and we talk about Hatch with them. We want them to share that information with the families, and try to really explain the importance of the family component. Like, if you're going to let your child play on a device, here's a really appropriate app that your child can play on, instead of doing something that we don't know that's completely appropriate. And so sending that message is like, and if you're using it at home, the teachers can actually see that data real time. So that's really important too. But I get it. I mean, families are busy and it's like, oh, one more thing I have to think about or learn about or download on my phone or whatever. So, but I think we're getting better with that too. I think the more that we're using it in our schools and the more the schools have stayed consistent across the years, again, it's just becoming more familiar to everybody, but it takes time. I mean, it's only been 3 years and I think we're doing really good with it. But obviously we still have places like families that are a challenge for our teachers, to kind of get that buy-in from them.
Right.
Well, the data is showing that you all are doing amazing things. So I would love to share a little bit about that. Naomi, do you want to take it from here?
I lost my mute button. Okay. Now, yes, I would love to take it from here. I have had the amazing pleasure of getting to look at the GA DECAL summer transition program from our partnership over the past 3 years. I started this job in August, so I'm really like unbiased to it. And what I've seen in the patterns is just like huge wins. And I think the three biggest ones is like the data consistently shows over the 3 summers that Ignite is being used in the classrooms. Even more than that, both teachers and children seem to really like Ignite. And we have some evidence that Ignite is even supporting learning within the classrooms. And I will dive into some of this in a little bit more detail. So I want to start with our first one, that the data shows that we have really strong Ignite usage in the summer transition program. And one way we can measure strong Ignite usage is by looking at the number of classes who were given the opportunity to use Ignite and the number of classes who took that opportunity. So we can see those numbers on the graph, right? You can see the bottom line is showing the number of classes that had the opportunity to use Ignite during the summer transition program. And then on our up and down line, we have the summer, the year of the summer. And the full bars, those show the number of classes who could use Ignite. And so you can see that we have anywhere from 200 to upwards of over 300 this past summer. And I'm sure Megan can speak to a little bit like why more classes were given the opportunity to use it. But I know from my conversations with her and Jen, it's because they were excited about the technology. And you can see that each summer, we have almost all of the classes who were supposed to use it or who had the opportunity to use it actually do that, right? 75% basically from each summer are using Ignite. And when we talk to teachers about this, we're like, why? Like, why are you implementing? And I know that, Miss Mira and Miss Monique spoke about this a few minutes ago, but for the most part, it's because teachers feel like it's pretty easy to implement, right? 93% of teachers told us like this isn't really an issue to use in the classroom. And then Nicole, if we can just go to the next slide. I also want to mention that just like beyond that classroom level, the data is also showing that Ignite is being used by the children and teachers within those classrooms. So we can start with like the purple side here of this slide. And you can see that over the course of the 3 summers, like almost 9,000 children at the summer transition program have played Ignite. It's tons of children. And we know that from our internal data, on average, children are spending about 20 to 30 minutes playing Ignite per week, which translates to about like 5 minutes per day. It's a lot of playtime for a short period, for a shorter program, but it's the right amount of playtime for Ignite to work. Now I want to switch our attention to the yellow side, right? So teachers, of course, aren't playing Ignite. So we're interested in how often they're using our report management system, which is called Insights, that reflects the progress children are making in Ignite. And you can see Insights is being used a lot, right? 97% of teachers who are using Ignite report using Insights weekly. And you can see in the graph, right, our largest group of teachers, who 60%, report using Insights just about daily. And I'm focusing on this usage here, even though it seems like, okay, so you gave them Ignite and then they used it, like what's the big deal? But I think all of us can think about tools in our classrooms that simply like sit in the corner of the classroom and like collect dust. And what this data is sort of showing us is that that's simply just not the case with Ignite. It's not just collecting dust. It's a tool that really is being used. And so the next one I want to kind of focus on is this win that teachers and children seem to really like Ignite. And I know we've gotten that impression already from Megan and Miss Monique and Miss Mira, who say like it's not a big deal to get their children playing. And the reason it's not a big deal is because Ignite seems to be really engaging for children. So when we think about engagement, or when I think about engagement, I kind of think about a combination of 2 things. It's like How well does Ignite hold children's attention, paired with how much children enjoy playing Ignite? And to me, we're seeing, we asked teachers, right? Okay, how engaging do you think Ignite is for your students? And we're seeing that most teachers feel that Ignite is really engaging for their children. We can see this on the graph, right? On the bottom line, we have a scale of very engaged, very disengaged to very engaged. We have the percent of teachers up and down, and you can see that 74% of teachers said Ignite was engaging, if not very engaging for their children. And I want to just call out these quotes that some of the teachers said in this survey. These are teachers from GA DECAL, the summer transition program. And one of them said, all of my students love to use Hatch. And it was so interesting that all of my students, even my students with individualized education programs, love to use Hatch. And another said, I love how the students are engaged in the program. They are learning without realizing that they're engaging in assessment/learning. Okay.
I do want to pop in and sort of
Yeah.
like follow up on what Naomi's saying there, like even children with IEPs, like an important part of Ignite is that it's available in English, and like the teacher can decide, is the child going to engage in the educational experiences in English or Spanish? So it's meeting children's language that they're learning most frequently and easily in, as well as it's going to meet children where they are. So if they have a specific skill or developmental delay that is being worked on with an IEP, like Ignite obviously is not going to target that specifically because it's not designed to do that, but it is going to help children and support them, taking them into like guided practice experiences that are going to really help the skills that they're needing to be successful at the next level and when they're getting into kindergarten.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, and then in addition to, I think, teachers finding this valuable specifically for their students, we're also seeing that teachers are finding it valuable for themselves as well, and specifically this report management tool, Insights. So we wanted to know, like, how many do our teachers like this? And again, if we look at the graph, we're seeing that, yeah, like those purple bars show the percentage of teachers who find Insights at least valuable, and 86% of teachers said Insights is valuable. And there was two kind of main reasons why teachers thought this was valuable. One is that it provides valuable feedback about students. And you can see that in both of the quotes in purple, but I like the second one a lot. It says, I was able to get insights that I might get when doing actual activities. I could see where the students struggle without having to keep up with every student's struggle on paper. So it's like giving them information while also reducing some of the workload that teachers have to take on sometimes to get this type of specific information. And the other main reason that teachers found Insights really valuable is because it supports data collection and informal assessment. Again, I'm going to read the second quote in yellow. The data collection and to assess students in another area besides large group, small group, and one-on-one. It just gives another opportunity to be accessing this data. So clearly, children and teachers are liking Ignite. And then to me, I think this is really important. And it's, yeah, just that we're also seeing this evidence that children are learning from using the program. And as we go through, we can talk about how we kind of know that. So I think the first piece of evidence that Ignite is supporting children's learning is that we see children advancing through Ignite levels in just a short amount of time. So you can see on the graphs, right, if we look at the bottom axes, that bottom line, we have the level that children achieved in Ignite within 3 of the learning domains. So language, literacy, and math. And then on our y-axis or up and down line, we see the percentage of children who reach that level. And the different colored bars are for the different summers. And you can see that like most children, right, around 60% are reaching level 2 in each domain. And so what this is telling us, right, like when children play through the levels, it means that they're practicing those skills. And so that progress shows that children are in fact practicing skills. And we know when children practice, they are likely learning. So we have some evidence of learning here. And then the other really big piece of evidence that we have for learning is that we're finding through our partnership with GA DECAL that Ignite Progress is connected with the strength of children's skills as measured by their teachers. So at the end of last summer, that was 2023, we asked teachers to rate their children on their literacy and math skills based on the Georgia Early Learning and Development Standards. And then we asked this question, okay, do children who make more progress in Ignite also show stronger developmental skills? And we did some statistical analyses, and we find that, yeah, children who reached higher math and literacy levels in Ignite also had higher scores on these rating scales that the teachers did. We can see that on the graph, right? Blue shows math, pink shows literacy, bottom line shows the levels that children reached in Ignite. And you can see, and then on the up and down lines, we see the scores on those rating scales. Lower scores meant less strong in those skills. And you can see children who made less progress in Ignite also were rated as less strong in those skills. So there is this relationship. And what this is telling us is that what children are learning and practicing in Ignite will likely transfer to their play and learning in their classroom, that these are not disconnected components and therefore is evidence of learning through their play. And then I want to just mention what I think is the most important evidence for children's learning in Ignite. If Nicole, you'll go to the next slide. And I think that teachers are probably the best source on this, given that they're with their students all the time. But we asked teachers, how does Ignite impact individual students? And they told us it supports their learning. And we can see that in these quotes. And I'm just going to point to two of them, right? That first one on the top row. This teacher told us it affects their students by improving their pre-reading skills, expanding their basic math skills, and increasing their ability to focus and pay attention to directions. And then we can also look at the bottom quote, the last one on the right, I guess. Some students loved it so much that it was useful as an educational incentive. Students who needed help with vocabulary also gained a lot using Hatch. So we're seeing in these quotes just the evidence that teachers are seeing for students learning. And I think that's giving us a lot of information about how, in general, Ignite can support children's skill development within a short summer program.
Clearly, these results are impactful. Thank you so much for sharing, Naomi, and congratulations to our DECAL team on making such great strides. With this information, my next question is, where are you all planning on going from here? What are your goals for this summer?
Well, I think we're going to stay a little bit like status quo for right now. We're going to be funding the same amount of classes that we have funded for this upcoming summer. So we'll continue. We will be adding in some classes that are new because we'll have some classes that won't participate again this summer. There is a new person in my position, and there is a lot going on for her. And so while we had some great hopes and dreams of training the admin this summer, we've decided to table that so she can just kind of get her feet wet and figure this all out, and probably readdress some of those things in summer 2025. So for this summer, we'll be doing everything like we have been. I think the goal for myself and probably with Jennifer is that we just get more teachers, everybody using it. There should be no reason people aren't using it. We buy the tablets, we ship them to them, we pay for all the licenses. So there's nothing really that the school has to do or the teacher has to do other than set up the classroom and get teachers or get the children using it. So like we've definitely gotten better over the last 3 years, but I want 100%. People need to be on there. And if they're not, they're out of our program. It's a requirement that they use it. And so the fact that we still have some teachers who aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing is a little bit frustrating to me, but I'm a perfectionist, so I want that to go like perfectly. But yeah, I mean, I think just kind of getting the usage up everywhere, having 100% participation, no matter, what the school, where they are. We're always working through some minor issues, but Support has been great. If there's an issue, they can go into IT support and get a help ticket, and Jen's help with that and getting things replaced if it's broken. So I
Yes.
think just doing that. And then I think, looking into the future, we definitely want to obviously train and get our admin kind of, where they need to be able to really have the oversight at the school level. And then we do want to add in our rising pre-K. We're a smaller program. We only have 70 of those classes, but that will probably be the next step that we take. And then, our funding, unfortunately, is just dependent on kind of what's going on. Like, we know we usually get the same amount of classes every year, but we really don't ever know. I called Jen a couple summers ago and I was like, hey, we're adding 150 classrooms. And she's like, okay. That was a huge undertaking in 2022. We had to ship out tablets to everybody. And then last year we added on. In the beginning, we gave 2 tablets to each class, and our class sizes are 14 kids in the summer. And last year we added an additional tablets. We felt like we really needed one more. We needed the teachers and the children to have the ability to use those devices. And the good thing is they can download the app on any other device. And a lot of our pre-K classrooms have iPads or, different types of tablets. So they can also add in more, but we would only buy the 3 for them. So, we're trying to figure out what we get feedback from teachers, like what we can do to make things better as far as training and implementation and the actual product that we ship to them, and the support that we give them. So again, I feel very positive. The results every summer from the surveys are great. And we just want to kind of keep moving forward, and me slowly handing this off to my replacement, who will be just wonderful. But that's a big transition for us. It's a big program to start. She just got hired in December, so she's got a lot going on. So we're not going to make any big drastic changes this summer, but just,
I think that's smart, consistent growth for sure.
yeah.
I'd love to hear from all 3 of you ladies in terms of one recommendation. If you could say one thing for someone looking to implement Ignite into a summer learning program, or even, an extended day program or an early arrival program, if they're looking for a consistent level of structure to those atypical programs, what piece of advice or recommendation would you each offer them?
Gather as much training as you can before you get to it.
All right.
Gain, get that knowledge, get some training underneath your belt and go with that. So that way, which way you're going with it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a good internet.
that too.
All right.
And then I would probably say, like, I'm looking at it differently, but like, those are really great things. And we know that's important, but like the funding, like, it's not cheap to do. And so, we've invested a lot of money from the state, and we're fortunate because we have funds from our state lottery dollars to be able to support it. But it's a big undertaking, depending on how big a program is, to have to purchase the tablets and then purchase the license and then the training. And like, so it's not, it's not unimaginable to be able to do it, but you also have to have that, I guess, constant funding source. Like, you don't want to invest a bunch of money up front and then for some reason not to be able to continue it, because it is a great program, but it is a lot of money up front. And then to be able to support that from, year to year or during your school year or however you're going to, that's just another important piece that I think is, that you need to know and have that kind of in your back pocket before taking that next step.
For sure. I don't see any unanswered questions in our Q&A box, but to our attendees, if you have any questions for the DECAL team, please, by all means, enter those into our Q&A box. And of course, if you look in the chat, you can learn more about summer learning with Ignite at the link provided. And with no questions, I will thank everyone for attending. A big thank you to our DECAL team. We're so proud of the work you're doing and so very thankful that you took the time out of your incredibly busy days to be here with us. So thank you all. And for your webinar certificate, you may download the link in the chat.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.